What y'all listening to?
Limelight Highlight Podcast.
Welcome back to the show. It's the Limelight Highlight Podcast, your silver lining space to take a break from the stressful everyday. It's been a few weeks since we did our normal routine of the good news, so I have some pretty good news that I'm excited to share with you all today. But before we get too deep into that, I have two updates that I'd like to share with you. Last weekend, I had the opportunity of helping a nonprofit organization that helps give new purpose to veterans by pairing them with children of our nation's fallen heroes for new adventures. This nonprofit organization is called Active Valor, and they hosted an amazing Halloween-themed scavenger hunt. I was paired with the sweetest 6-year-old little girl that I've ever met. It was a little bit of a challenge to get her to come out of her shell, but I think we hit it off pretty good after I got to know her a little bit. We were equipped with some Nerf guns and a ton of ammo, shooting zombies, witches, werewolves, mummies, vampires, and some killer clowns. But she was a trooper, shooting all these things. She actually got really good at reloading this gun too, because it was a little difficult. She's a little 6-year-old, and collecting everything we needed for the scavenger hunt. So huge shout out to Active Valor and all those who put in all the work together to make these things happen, and all those who participated. Perry Yee is the founder, and hopefully we'd have him on a future episode of the podcast. But until then, if you happen to be a veteran and would like to know more information about this amazing organization, I'll be sure to leave the link in the description of the episode where you can learn everything you need to know. Now, for the second update, last week I asked listeners to help promote The Block Gives Back for an award and a chance for them to win a $2,500 grant to help them with their continuous efforts to help Philly. I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody who shared and showed support. Because of those collective individuals, The Block Gives Back won the Community Engagement Award, and that's a pretty big deal. And just so you don't forget, another update, since this upcoming week is the last week of the month, The Block Gives Back will be doing their monthly Feed the Block event again on Tuesday, every last Tuesday of every month. This month it is October 29th. It'll be Taco Tuesday, and they need volunteers to help prepare taco meat and all the fresh toppings at Moss Playground, 5700 Torresdale Ave, from 5 p.m. to 6:45. So be sure to check out the show notes, because I'll be putting it in the show notes so you guys can go check out The Block Gives Back. And that is it for updates. Now on to the show. Now, this article my wife put me on was pretty amazing, and it has to do with cleanliness and energy. And disclaimer, it has to do with a lot of crap, like actual poop. So if you're eating or anything like that and you can't handle the grossness that's about to come out of this podcast, I totally understand. Build up the stomach, because it's some really good information, in my opinion. So our last episode covered a little bit on toilets and how much water we're wasting, and how we should try to do at least something to help. Well, in case you didn't know, here's an unnerving statistic. More than 2 billion people don't have access to safe, clean sanitation systems, which are toilets or a sewer system or running water, something that gets the waste, disposes of it without you harming your environment, in a sense. Bill Gates, you know, that billionaire Bill Gates, well, he's at it again, using his huge fortune to help aid in finding out how to perfect a new creative type of toilet. Yes, we're going to be talking about toilets and poop here. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation awarded at least $4.8 million in grant money to the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine to perfect a type of toilet called a tiger toilet. Now, this tiger toilet, it's been popping up outside homes and schools and areas that don't really have that great of a sewage system, like we were saying, or sanitation system, around the country of India, because India is very, very populated and they don't really have the access to all of those things. They're a developing country. On the outside, just a little description of the toilet, it looks like another pit latrine, but it doesn't smell like one. And instead of that weird blue stuff that's in porta potties, this one comes with built-in population of tiger worms. Yes, I said tiger worms. A tiger worm is a worm that naturally breeds, lives, and eats in cow crap or just any huge piles of crap from animals or people, any living things that excrete feces. So these toilets, they don't have any way of really being flushed and aren't hooked up to any sewer systems. So instead, the worms are contained in a container below the toilet seat, and they pretty much eat all the crap. They eat all the poop, and I really hope you guys aren't eating while listening to this because it's kind of gross, but the way this works is after they eat your poop, they leave behind a mix of water, carbon, and a small amount of their own kind of worm poop that's much less toxic and actually a ton more nutrient rich than our own. The resulting water isn't clean enough to drink, but it can go into the ground and is filtered naturally on from there. And they, years of development into and field testing around the world with this toilet, it's finally actually reaching parts of the world that essentially never even had toilets before. So with how effective and safe the toilets become, the Bill Gates Foundation is ready to spend an additional $200 million on developing technology for the next generation of these types of toilets. And they can operate without a mainframe sewer system, like we were saying. So we're already saving water, which is helping the environment. And my first thoughts was, how are these worms going to just stay in these toilets and not escape or even survive consistently? And while I was reading the article, according to the article, they won't escape because their own needs have to pretty much live off of our waste. So in a sense, they like living in our crap because they survive in it, they thrive in it. So it's almost like, why would you want to leave some place that you're thriving in? So I guess it makes sense. I'm not a scientist, but I'm just reading off what I read or what I found. So just to get a little more detailed, the way this toilet works is a person goes there, does their thing on the toilet, and they send their waste down into the worm-filled compartment below using essentially a bucket of water, since there's no real handles or anything to actually flush the toilet. And that's pretty much it. It sounds crazy simple, and that's pretty much because it is. They got some cleaning stats and statistics on how the worms process your waste, and what they actually came up with is, I don't know how you get statistics on poop, but they did, and that the worms remove 99% of pathogens and leave behind no more than 15% of the waste by weight. I don't know what that means exactly, but it sounds better. 99% of pathogens is good because you don't want any of that stuff getting in anywhere you eat or cuts or anything like that, especially in a developing country. The rest becomes water and carbon dioxide, and if you compare it to a septic tank, apparently it blows it out of the water. So as gross as it sounds, the leftover byproduct works amazing for fertilizer that helps and is good for growing plants. So that's another plus to use these toilets. It won't breed mosquitoes or attract other flying bugs. Not that there's not going to be flies and stuff attracted to crap, because come on now. But usually, porta potties have all that blue water and stuff, and just, water that sits around has a habit of bringing mosquitoes and other nasty insects around. But this is actually a lot more sanitary, I think, because the worms act fast in that little ecosystem. So the developing teams actually went back to some of the earlier editions, or the earliest editions of the Tiger toilets, which at this point would be more than 5 years old, and their worm compartments haven't even needed any maintenance. So if they keep up at this pace, they expect, give or take, after 10 years, some of the toilets will need to have maintenance done to them, which screams volumes. And on top of that, the maintenance is actually pretty simple. You don't have to handle any sludge or any of that nasty blue liquid. You just have to remove the lid of the toilet seat and empty the worm bin and restock, and you're good to go. Now, if you didn't know, across the developing world, people without a safe place to go to the bathroom can die due to unsanitary conditions. I'm just trying to give you guys an idea on why this toilet is so important, especially in areas that, like I said before, that never even had toilets before. They would go outside and do their business either in a hole or in the street or whatever the case is, however disgusting you may think it is. That's just the reality for these people. So to have a system like this in place it's just really big. It's a game changer. Another statistic, diarrhea alone kills over 500,000 children under the age of 5 every single year around the world, simply because of poor hygiene. And if you need something to relate to, we can all agree that money makes the world go round. And improper hygiene, another statistic, can cause the global economy to miss out, if we're going by US dollars, on an estimated $223 billion per year. So we're losing money, and the quality of life of these people is terrible. So this is just a win-win-win. A study found that in India, women who don't have a place to do their business privately are twice as likely to be sexually assaulted by a stranger than those who have a place to conduct their business privately. So on top of that, excuse me, there are some places in India where, you know, some women have to go out in the street or actually even public bathrooms, and they get sexually assaulted or harassed constantly. So they're actually trying to develop something that you can put in home. But this one simple non-hookup to a sewer system toilet can alleviate a ton of these problems by just a little bit. And once again, it's just a huge win and a plus for developing countries as well as the developed world, because money makes the world go round. And if this is helping save money and helping save lives, it just makes sense. After reading about this and getting a little more information, I realized that this is just another one of those subjects that we don't really think about. It's literally a part of our everyday lives, and something to really think about and be grateful that most of us have the ability to live cleaner than others. And with all the technology, I'm sure that they're determined to make an even better system or continue to develop it. And they're already, like I said, in works to come up with a design that can be smaller and fit inside a small home. And they're pushing this idea so much, and they see the benefit of this so much that as an incentive, the Indian government is actually giving money to those who convert to these eco-friendly toilets, because, as I said before, it's a huge deal to have a clean area to live and sanitary conditions, not only for individuals, but for the world as a whole. So yeah, if you want to learn more about this, I'll post a couple links from where I got the information from on the story, as well as a link to a pretty cool video simplifying everything that we just spoke on. Now, today's listener news falls in line almost perfectly with our story today. A friend from high school, Pinky Manzano, shared with us a meme that read, I quote, "Scientists discover a mushroom that eats plastic and believe it could clean our landfills," end quote. So, of course, I had to look this up because it almost sounds too good to be true, but I'm here to tell you that it is true. I know I've harped on how terrible plastic is and how much we need to reduce our use, and I'm pretty sure you get the idea. So I'll be quick with this one. And the article that I looked up states that in 2012, Yale University students discovered a rare species of mushroom from the Amazon rainforest, which is another reason why we have to keep that thing around, that is capable of surviving on a diet of pure plastic. Not actual plastic, like plastic bottles is what it eats, but mainly the main ingredient in plastic waste. But it can also survive without oxygen. So not only can it live off plastic waste, but it can also survive without oxygen. And because of those two things, it makes it a perfect candidate to clean our landfills from the bottom up. Not only is it amazing at eating plastic, but the mushroom itself is actually safe for humans to eat. And while I was reading through this thing, they said if you eat it or prepare it or whatever the case is, it smells sweet and tastes almost like licorice, and it's actually good for you. So I cannot think of a better solution for the world to bring us this mushroom. It's the best scenario. So I hope you guys check this link that I'll put in the show notes as well, because I can't do the article justice and we covered one story, so this is just a synopsis of of listener news and stuff like that. So go see it for yourself. I highly encourage you to do that. And shout out to Pinky, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for listening.